Hi there and welcome back to Plow and Pantry. I'm Alicia and today we're talking Instant Pots. I use my Instant Pot almost every day, but for several years, people asked me, oh, you use yours a lot? I'll have to get some recipes from you. And I would draw a blank. And I couldn't figure out why I would draw a blank on recipes if I use my Instant Pot so often. It took me a while to figure out that it's because I don't make recipes in my Instant Pot. I make ingredients. I make things that ordinarily would take a lot more time or just babysitting, even if they're not that much longer in time. And that's what I use in my Instant Pot. So I thought I would discuss with you today the many ways I use my Instant Pot and none of its recipes. I have occasionally tried a few recipes. I'm never completely sold on them. There are a lot of channels out there that have some great Instant Pot recipes that other people love. But let's get started with the other ways that are not recipes that I use my Instant Pot to make my life easier. Number one, hard-boiled eggs. I made these in a recent video that I can link for you in an iCard where I just spent a day doing homestead chores, most of them in the kitchen. If you have chickens yourself, so you have fresh eggs, or if you buy organic eggs, you know that they are harder to peel when they are hard-boiled. And there are many tricks to get that to be easier, and I've tried them all, from putting baking soda in the water to cooking them certain ways, and I've never found anything that makes them easy to peel until I started putting them in my Instant Pot. I put mine in for 9 minutes. I will try to find and link for you the chart where I first got the idea that shows, like, by your minutes what type of cook it should be, like if it's a soft boiled, hard boiled, whatever. I put mine in for 9, and if you take them out while they're still warm, like in an ice bath, as soon as you can handle them, and I just crack them and the peel comes right off. So it is my go-to way to make hard-boiled eggs now. And since we have chickens, we have a lot of eggs, and I make hard-boiled eggs frequently. So that has been a game changer for me, the hard-boiled eggs in the Instant Pot. Number two, rice. Rice, especially brown rice. Now, rice doesn't take that long on the stove. Brown rice does, wild rice does. But if you have regular white rice, jasmine rice, basmati, whatever, it doesn't take that long on the stove, but you do kind of have to make sure you have those ratios perfect. You're kind of keeping an eye on it. You don't want it to boil over, that kind of thing. You don't have to do that in the Instant Pot. You just stick it in there with the water, set it, leave it, and it's done. And for brown rice, it not only cooks faster, it is very soft. I have never gotten to the point with brown rice on the stovetop where it doesn't have a tiny bit of a bite to it still. And when I do it in the Instant Pot, that pressure cooking just makes it light and fluffy, just like white rice. Wild rice, same thing. It makes it softer, it cooks it way faster, because wild rice you have to do like an hour on the stovetop. In the Instant Pot, it's like 35 minutes or something. But again, you're not having to babysit it, which is something I like. I love things I don't have to babysit so that I can be doing the other things. Get the rice in the Instant Pot so I can be working on the meal on the stovetop, something like that. Okay, so rice is my number two. Number three, dry beans. They cook so much faster, and I find I don't need as much of a pre-soak. You can actually use your Instant Pot to pre-soak your beans too. But I find if I pressure cook my dry beans, which usually only takes 25 to 35 minutes depending on the type of bean, that cooks them one way, and then I'm putting them in another dish, which cooks them another way, which kind of eliminates the need, for me at least, for that pre-soaking. But dry beans cook way faster. Again, you're not having to boil it. You're not having to smell it as long, because to me, dry beans when they're cooking is not the greatest smell in the universe. But that is one of my go-tos. I put dry beans always in the Instant Pot. That was number three. Number four, bone broth. I have probably mentioned this before. I may have even shown it. Sorry, that's my oven. I've got sandwich bread in there. I may have even shown it. I will make my bone broth in the Instant Pot because I can do 2 to 3 hours in there and it comes out wonderfully. Whereas if you're doing true bone broth, you have to cook it for 1 to 2 days. And I used to, before my Instant Pot, I used to do it in the crock pot. I've done it if I have a large carcass, like a turkey carcass, I'll do it in the electric roaster. I don't want to do it on the stovetop because I don't want to have to babysit it overnight for days, whatever. But I also, it's another thing I don't enjoy the smell of at certain stages of the cooking. And so when I put it in the Instant Pot, it's a lot less smell. It's out of my way. It doesn't take up as much space on the counter as my crock pot or my roaster do. It's not on the stovetop. And that pressure cooking really helps draw out the minerals. When I make bone broth, I don't put a lot of extras in it unless I'm really trying to use up a vegetable. You can use whatever you want. I do put a tiny bit of apple cider vinegar in it to help pull out those minerals from the marrow. But I use my Instant Pot always to make bone broth. It is way faster and just cleaner and everything. If you have an Instant Pot and you haven't done bone broth in it, do it that way. Just trust me. Okay, number 5, cooked chicken. A lot of people use rotisserie chickens, which taste delicious, but I don't like the ingredients in them. And they aren't, have you noticed the price has gone up, but I feel like the size of the chickens are shrinking? I feel like I'm getting smaller ones with less meat for more money, except at Costco, that's about the same. But even then, I don't want those ingredients. And usually when I'm buying a rotisserie chicken, I'm not buying it to eat the chicken like for dinner. I'm buying it to have pre-cooked meat to put in something else. So I will put in, oftentimes, if I get like a family pack of the boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I'm using some of it for a recipe, I'll put the rest in the Instant Pot and just cook it. I do mine for like 27 minutes. It shreds, and then I have it for all the other things, a casserole, tacos, whatever I want to put it in. So any recipe that I need cooked chicken for, I don't roast a chicken first or buy a rotisserie chicken. I just put whatever chicken I have on hand out of the freezer. I need to thaw it, and I just put it in the Instant Pot, and I have cooked chicken for whatever, and it can be flavored however. Same thing for a whole chicken. I don't use the Instant Pot to roast one because you don't get that browning coolness, but I don't roast whole chickens that often. But if I have a whole chicken because it was a really good deal, or I got one in my butcher box or something like that, I can put that in the Instant Pot too and have the cooked meat, and then I use those same bones, make broth. It's a twofer for that one. Next one is a roast. Pork roast, beef roast, any of those things that have to cook low and slow for a long time, I put in the Instant Pot. Mostly because it doesn't take the babysitting. I will put one in. So here's a thing I do. When a recipe says to put a roast in the Instant Pot for like an hour, I'll do like an hour and a half. I usually do it longer. It falls apart, and I've gotten a lot of comments about people saying, oh, it's so tender, it just falls apart. This roast is delicious. If you want yours very sliceable, go with whatever the recipe says. But I always tack on like 30 minutes to whatever it says. And so my roast might take an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours if it's a large one that maybe isn't completely thawed. But I can stick it in there with the flavorings, be done with it, and work on other stuff. Whereas with the oven, if I'm trying to roast it, I often need to check on it, baste it, turn it, make sure it's not burning, check to see if it's done, that kind of thing. So I prefer a roast in the Instant Pot as well. Next one, baked potatoes. My preferred way to bake potatoes is to do all the oil, salt, and pepper and wrap it in a foil and stick it in the oven, but that takes an hour. And I'm often not home early enough before dinner to do that. When I can't do that, I put them in the Instant Pot. Caveat here, you do have to, if you're using the Instant Pot, you do have to make sure that the potatoes you're putting in there are the same size, because anything slightly smaller will be overcooked and the bigger ones can be undercooked, and then there's the middle ones that are just right. It's like Goldilocks. So get as close as you can to uniform sized potatoes if you bake potatoes in the Instant Pot. And that takes less time too. I'll put the time I cook it somewhere on the screen. I want to say it's like 20 minutes in the Instant Pot. It might be less. And the last one, applesauce. In the fall, I buy a ton of apples from a local apple house. I also have a lot of apple trees. They are babies right now, so I don't have a lot of apples yet. I did get a few last year, not enough to make applesauce. This year we'll get more, and I'm certain it's still not going to be enough to make applesauce. But we buy our favorite apples. In fact, we go to the apple house twice so that we can get the early fall varieties and the later fall varieties. And one of the fastest ways to cook it down so that it will be easy to blend is in the Instant Pot. So I do the peel, cut, whatever, stick it in the Instant Pot. In fact, if you don't want to peel them, the Instant Pot makes the peel softer than in a regular cooking method. So they get done faster and they release their own juices really well, so it becomes really easy to blend them. So applesauce is something that I only make a couple times a year because it's mostly in the fall and then I can it, but I make it in the Instant Pot and that makes things a lot easier. So that's 8 ways I use my Instant Pot. Sorry, none of them are recipes for you, but they are ways that make my life way more convenient and efficient. Let me know in the comments what you use your Instant Pot for. If you have a go-to recipe, I'd love to try it. And if you have another way to make your life easy with your Instant Pot on a non-recipe way, I would love to know what that is too. Thanks for joining me here today, guys. I'll see you next time.